Good morning. Welcome to Sports Talk, United States Sports Academy. This morning we're going to be talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs, and our guest today joining me is going to be, to my far left, Dr. Mike Frederick, who is Chair of Sports Studies, and to my immediate left is Rob Hudson, Director of Library and the Archivist, and I'm Director of Doctoral Studies, Dr. Fred Cromartie. Gentlemen, we all seem to be hockey fans, and I'm happy to have the panel assembled today because this is the first talk that we've had on Sports Talk in relationship to hockey. So I wanted to bring up the playoffs because we just rolled somewhat out of the NCAA with March Madness, and then everybody gets tied up into the Super Bowl and everything else that goes on. But there are a few of us, being from cold weather cities, that live in warm weather cities now, but we also have some warm weather hockey teams. You know, the Florida Panthers are. So we wanted to bring it up and talk it and put it out here, our picks. And let's start off. Let's, Dr. Frederick, go ahead and go with your list.
Do you want me to run through the whole bracket?
Yeah, let's run through the whole bracket.
I'm from St. Louis, and I'm a St. Louis Blues fan, so
We won't hold that against him, so there'll be no checking up here on the set just yet, but maybe afterwards we will.
I'm going to do the Western Conference first.
Okay.
I have Blues over Blackhawks. I have Dallas Stars because they're number one seed. And then I have Anaheim Ducks, they're number one seed. And then I have the Sharks because they're up, and I hope they beat LA, but we'll see. And then also Ducks, Blues over Ducks. Blues and Capitals in the Stanley Cup.
Stick with the matchups. That's what
Okay.
we want to do, is make sure that it stays within the matchup setting.
Okay,
Of the playoff
I have in the Eastern Conference, I have Capitals, Pens, Lightning, New York Islanders. Then I have Tampa Bay Lightning against Capitals, and I have Capitals winning. So Capitals, Blues win the Cup. That's my hope. St. Louis Blues have never won the Cup in 50 years, and they haven't been in the Cup since 1970.
Okay, we're going to keep on hoping that, but right now it looks kind of favorable to the Blues because they're 3-1 up on our Blackhawks right now, but we're not giving in.
I agree with a lot of what I heard, and I want to thank everyone for inviting me to this hockey sports talk. I am the token Canadian here, and I will give you my opinion. And
We're not going to go any further with that.
Well, there are some Canadians who watch this program, I'm sure. The big story, of course, is that this is the first time in 46 years that there's been no Canadian franchises in the playoffs.
Yes.
I know in 1970, that was the year I was born. That was the last year there were no Canadian franchises in the playoffs. I just recently read a report where only 61% of Canadian homes are tuning into the playoffs this year, which is amazingly low. But
well, that goes to the factor, it's somewhat of nationalism, you know, not a team being, up in the Canadian area there, Canada, they don't want to watch because now it's become somewhat Americanized.
It's a point of national pride. In fact, the majority of players on the Blackhawks are Canadian.
Yeah.
Have a good day. I do agree with a lot of what you said. I pick the Blues over the Blackhawks. Kane has to step up. There's been no showing from Kane. Also, the Blackhawks only have 1 point or 1 goal in even strength situations, so they're really struggling in that. Also, the epic meltdown of the last game, and there were some kerfuffle and fighting at the end. I think that's showing they're starting to have an emotional reaction to the pressure.
Oh, there's a tremendous emotional reaction. I'm not necessarily sure that it's pressure. I just think that it is in line with the overall rivalry between the Blackhawks and the Blues. And, that's one of the things that's throughout hockey. It pervades it. The fact of the matter is that you have that emotional element that's involved. You have the rivalry that's involved. And everybody is striving to try to get to the cup.
And both goalies are very good.
Well, both goalies are excellent goalies in that. But the simple fact of the matter is that in each one of the cases where the team is leading in the series, you find that there is one player that has stepped up. And it's interesting because not only has that player stepped up, but that player is leading in goals. That player is leading in assists. And it's just carrying forth with each one of the teams that are leading right now. So that's something to pay attention to. Wait a minute, let's jump back a second here. You're going with Detroit, even though they're down 3-1-2?
Yes, that's right.
See, okay, all right.
I believe there's some injuries on the Lightning side that are going to change.
But
things.
you can't take that same faith back on over to the Blackhawks. Okay, all right.
You got me in a contradiction, but I'm going to continue with my predictions.
Okay.
I am going for the Caps simply because I love the goal. And we usually focus on the forwards and the offense, but the defense on the Caps is wonderful. And then finally on the Penguins versus the Rangers, I love the Rangers, so I'm gonna root for them as in the first round.
Okay, well, we've got two good selections in terms of the picks itself, and for me, and these are just prognostications. I don't claim to, have the ultimate Vegas knowledge in regards to picking these teams and that, but we're going back up over to the West, and I'm picking the Dallas Stars. I'm also sticking with my Blackhawks. I am going with the Blackhawks. I do believe that we are going to make the change tomorrow night in the game. We're going to get back in it, and it'll be 3-2, and we'll go on, and the Hawks will prevail. Then we're going to come on over to the Eastern side, and I'm going to concur with you. I'm going to stick with the Panthers. I like the Panthers. I think that the Lightning will beat Detroit, and ultimately we're going to have a series where excuse me, we go back on over. I'm going to take the Predators, and I'm also going to take the Sharks, but I think ultimately in the end the Sharks are going to beat the Predators.
Wow.
And then we come back over, and I see the Capitals winning that series, and then I also think that the Penguins are going to beat the Islanders, and ultimately it's going to be the Capitals beating the Penguins, and I think that the ultimate game itself for the Stanley Cup is going to be between the Hawks and the Panthers. And lo and behold, I'm sticking with the Blackhawks. And may Lord Stanley's Cup rest where it belongs. And that's right now in Chicago. And we're going to let it stay in Chicago. But I know that, again, like I said, those are my picks. That if it doesn't turn out to be that way, no problem. I will do like we always do, and I will get ready for hockey next year.
I love the Panthers side. The other side, you're all wrong.
Okay. All right.
It's either going to be the Blues or the Sharks on the other side against the Panthers. And I really hope that my Sharks come through. If not, I'll be happy with the Caps.
Well, somebody on the panel's got to stick with the current defending Stanley Cup champions, and just so happens to be that is the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I'll plug that again. The defending Stanley Cup champions.
Yes.
And, my St. Louis friend here down on the end, I'm not going to, badmouth them or badmouth St. Louis, but Blackhawks won 5 cups.
6.
Okay. Yeah.
Three out of the last 6, right?
Yeah.
I think that's right. So yeah, they're tough. They're a good team, no doubt.
Okay, well, like I said, we're talking about the series overall itself and that. So let's talk about how the series have played out thus far and everything. So Dallas right now is leading 2-1, and some of their top players right now, like I said, you've got Jamie Benn, he's got 2 goals, he's got 5 points, and he's got 3 assists. So that's pretty telling. That is, when you've got a guy that's skating like that, that's getting shots on goal, spreading the puck around and that's pretty tremendous for, the league teams right now. And that's what's happening with each one of the teams is they've got those stand-up guys that are really emerging.
Yeah, the Stars are up against a wild card though in Minnesota, and I don't know if it's all that strange for them to be beating them that
No, because they are the favorite there.
Yeah.
But see, the thing of it is I look at it this way: the Wild, they made the playoffs. So when you make the playoffs, you've got an opportunity, and it just so happens that Stars are taking full advantage of that opportunity. They're playing good, sound hockey.
Well, and a lot of the playoffs in any sport is who's hot at the time of the playoffs. So who are the hottest teams going into the playoffs and beginning of the playoffs? So
Exactly, and you make a great point there because going into the playoffs itself against the Blackhawks, the Blues were the team that came in with a hot streak going. And that's why they finished up second, and the Hawks were actually third.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, with the St. Louis series, you're talking the player right now that stands out the most is Vladimir Tarasenko.
Right.
3 goals, 5 points. Now, we can't take away, you just said a little bit ago that Kane's not stepping up and playing. He's got 4 assists, so he's got something going for him, but we need a little bit more out of him on that one.
That's right.
And then you've got to look at St. Louis's goalie. Goals against attempts in that. Right now, he's at 1.70, so he's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. And a goalie in hockey is like a shutdown pitcher in baseball.
Yeah.
So if you have a shutdown pitcher or shutdown goalie, you're going to go far.
Tarasenko is just doing wonderful. He's only played in 16 Stanley Cup playoffs, and he's got 13 points, and he's really hot now. So I nominated him for Athlete of the Month.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on and talk about the Ducks and the Predators. The Predators are up 2-1 right now, and Andrew, I'm going to mess his name up, Cogliano, is playing pretty well for the Ducks. He's got a goal, 3 points, and 2 assists, and then their goalie, Frederick Anderson, 0.00.
That's a shutout.
Yeah. When you pitch a shutout like that means not only are you, a stand-up goalie, but that means that your surrounding cast is supporting you in the absolute best way possible. Can that continue? I'm not so sure. But again, we're talking individual series. For this series, man, he's tough. He's tough.
Agreed.
Now, let's go. You have any extra points that you have for that series?
Oh, you said it all.
The Sharks and the Kings. Joe Pavlovsky, right now for the Sharks, he's got 3 goals. He's got 4 points. Milan Lukic for the Kings has got 3 assists. And Martin Jones, who's the goalie for the Sharks, his goals against attempts is 1.96. That's still pretty good, too.
I love the California rivalry between the Sharks and the Kings, and I followed them when I lived in LA in the 90s, and I think it's fantastic. But I've got to back my cousin, and the Sharks are due.
Yeah,
If you don't back your cousin, it's going to get back to him in some way.
He's bigger than me.
Okay.
Fear factor here.
All right. Well, let's keep going. The Panthers versus the Islanders. We're looking right now. Randy Smith for the Panthers. He's got 4 goals, 8 points, and 4 assists. That series is 2-1. And then Thomas Greiss for the Islanders. Unfortunately, his goals on attempts is 2.83. So that could be the series that we want to really kind of pay attention to because, we're talking tonight game, it could wind up being 2-2 easily.
The Panthers are my favorite. They have beautiful offense with Yager and a credible goalie with Luongo. And I think the combination is going to get them very, very far, if not right to the finals, in my opinion.
Okay. And I like Tampa Bay in that series. I think they're up 3-1, so they got to be doing something right.
Okay, and we've got the Lightning versus the Red Wings are up 3-1. Again, you picked the Red Wings. I just don't see it, but that we don't know what can happen in it. But right now, I would have to say, out of all of the series, the Lightning are playing. Excuse the pun, lights out.
They're playing great. They're having to improvise though because they had some significant injuries.
Yes, significant injuries, but they're improvising quite well.
True.
Okay, now let's move on to Capitals and the Flyers. Capitals are up 3-0. I'm sorry, but it looks as if we might have the brooms on the stoop, and people are getting ready to call it a sweep. But it just looks that way right now. The Flyers are not playing all that great. They had a chance the other game, just let it go. And I like I said, I think I picked the Capitals, and I really think that the Capitals might close it up tonight.
I think we'll all agree on this one. They had a meltdown. The Flyers had a meltdown basically in Game 3. And then Holtby, this wonderful goaltender for the Caps, is the real star of the show.
Yeah, and we're going, goals against attempts. He's .067. So,
and they have Ovechkin, so that doesn't hurt.
Oh yeah, that doesn't hurt at all. Exactly. Last series, Penguins Rangers. The Penguins are up 2-1 right now in terms of one of the best players of the series is Patrick Holmquist. He's got 3 goals, 4 points. Nick Bonin also for the Penguins has got 3 assists, and the Penguins goalkeeper Jeff Zadoff, I believe it is unfortunately he's 3.07. So with that sheds a little bit of light. That leaves the door kind of open for the Rangers, as they say, we'll leave the light on for you, but I think that the Penguins are going to try to shut that light off.
Yeah, the drama there is a coaching change. There was a new coach here, Sullivan, and it's really changed the dynamic of the Penguins. It's interesting to see how they operate under pressure.
Well, as we close up here, I think one of the other interesting points for hockey this year is the fact of the matter is that you got the replay, and you've seen more and more coaches call for the replay. And just, the last couple of games that I've watched in that, you've actually seen some calls overturned, some goals that were overturned. And once you go through that whole replay mechanism, it takes a little bit too long, but they do get the call correct. So I give it that. But I want to thank everyone for joining us here today on Sports Talk. I would like to continue to recommend that you send in your suggestions for Sport Talk for the panel to talk about various topics in that. That's Sport Talk at .edu, or excuse me,
At
USSA.edu. I'm talking too fast here, trying to get it in and that. I do apologize for
meltdown.
Oh boy, that does fit. That's appropriate. Again, on behalf of my guests on the panel here, thank you very much, and have a great day in sports.
Thank you.